So the man's a hero. So it would seem. He wrote to Downing Street a few months ago. My dear Prime Minister, you may remember me from our school days together. For almost 40 years I have lived in England, and I wish to make a gesture, something that will never be forgotten, to express my true feelings toward your country. The letter went on to describe the gift and was signed, yours humbly, by the man himself. Of course, the whole government was completely cock-a-hoop. The computers are being assembled at the Sale plant down in Port Talon, Cornwall. They'll be shipped across the country at the end of this month, and on April 1st, there's to be a special ceremony at the Science Museum in London. The Prime Minister is going to press the button that will bring the computers online. The whole lot of them. And this is top secret, by the way. Mr. Sale is to be rewarded with British citizenship, which is apparently something he has always wanted. Well, I'm very happy for him, Alex said. But you still haven't told me what this has got to do with me. Blunt glanced at Mrs. Jones, who had finished her meal while he was talking. She unwrapped another peppermint and took over. For some time now, our department, Special Operations, has been very concerned about Mr. Sale. The fact of the matter is, we've been wondering if he isn't too good to be true. I won't go into all the details, Alex, but we've been looking at his business dealings. He has contracts in China, the former Soviet Union, countries that have never been our friends. The government may think he's a saint, but there's a ruthless side to him too. And the security arrangements down at Port Talon worry us. He's more or less got his own private army. He's acting as if he's got something to hide. Not they never will listen, Blunt muttered. Exactly. The government's too keen to get their hands on his computers to listen to us. That was why we decided to send our own man down to the plant, supposedly to check on security. But in fact his job was to keep an eye on Herod Sale. You're talking about my uncle, Alex said. Ian Ryder had told him that he was going on to an insurance convention. Another lie in a life that had been nothing but lies. Yes. He was there for 3 weeks, and like us, he didn't exactly take to Mr. Sale. In his first reports, he described him as a short-tempered and unpleasant man. But at the same time, he had to admit that everything seemed to be fine. Production was on schedule, the Stormbreakers were coming off the line, and everyone seemed to be happy. But then we got a message. Ryder couldn't say very much because it was an open line, but he had told us that something had happened. He said he discovered something, that the Stormbreakers mustn't leave the plant and that he was coming up to London at once. He left Port Talon at 4 o'clock. He never even got to the motorway. He was ambushed in a quiet country lane. The local police found the car. We arranged for it to be brought up here. Alex sat in silence. He could imagine it. A twisting lane with the trees just in blossom, the silver BMW gleaming as it raced past, and round a corner, a second car waiting. Why are you telling me all this? He asked. It proves what we were saying, Blunt replied. We have our doubts about Sale. So we send a man down, our best man, and he finds out something and ends up dead. Maybe Ryder discovered the truth. But I don't understand, Alex interrupted. Sale's giving away the computers. He's not making any money out of them. In return, he's getting British citizenship. Fine. What's he got to hide? We don't know, Blunt said. We just don't know, but we want to find out, and soon, before these computers leave the plant. They're being shipped out. They're being shipped out on the 31st of March, Mrs. Jones added. Only 2 weeks from now. She glanced at Blunt, and he nodded. That's why it's essential for us to send someone else to Port Talon. Someone to continue where your uncle left off. Alex smiled queasily. I hope you're not looking at me. We can't just send another agent, Mrs. Jones said. The enemy has shown his hand. He's killed Ryder. You'll be expecting a replacement. Somehow, We have to trick him. We have to send in someone who won't be noticed, Blunt continued. Someone who can look around and report back without being seen themselves. We were considering sending down a woman. She might be able to slip in as a secretary or a receptionist. But then I had a better idea. A few months ago, one of these computer magazines ran a competition. Be the first boy or girl to use the Stormbreaker. Travel to Port Talon and meet Harold Sale himself. That was the first prize. And it was won by some young chap who's some kind of whiz kid when it comes to computers. Name of Felix Lester. 14 years old. Same age as you. He looks a bit like you too, actually. He's expected down at Port Talon less than 2 weeks from now. Wait a minute. You've already shown yourself to be extraordinarily brave and resourceful. At the Breaker's Yard. That was a karate kit, wasn't it? How long have you been learning karate? Alex didn't answer. So he went on. And there's a little test we arranged for you at the bank. Any boy who will climb out of a 15th floor window just to satisfy his own curiosity has to be rather special. And it seems to me that you are very special indeed. What we're suggesting is that you come and work for us, Mrs. Jones said. We have enough time to give you some basic training. Not that you'll need it. And we can equip you with a few items that may help you with what we have in mind. Then we'll arrange for you to take the place of this other boy. You'll go to Sale Enterprises on the 29th of March. That's when this Lester boy is expected. You'll stay there until the 1st of March, which is the day of the ceremony. Timing couldn't be better. You'll be able to meet Harold Sale, keep an eye on him, and tell us what you think. Perhaps you'll also find out what it was that your uncle discovered, and why he had to die. You shouldn't be in any danger. After all, who would suspect a 14-year-old boy of being a spy? All we're asking you to do is report back to us, Blunt said. That's all we want. 2 weeks of your time. A chance to make sure these computers are everything they're cracked up to be. A chance to serve your country. Blunt had finished his dinner. His plate was completely clean, as if there had never been any food on it at all. He put down his knife and fork, laying them precisely side by side. All right, Alex, he said. So what do you say? There was a long pause. Blunt was watching him with polite interest. Mrs. Jones was unwrapping yet another peppermint, her black eyes seemingly fixed on the twists of paper in her hands. No, Alex said. I'm sorry. It's a dumb idea. I don't want to be a spy. I want to be a footballer. Anyway, I've got a life of my own. He found it quite difficult to choose the right words. The whole thing was so preposterous that he almost wanted to laugh. Why didn't you ask this Felix Lester to snoop around for you? We don't believe he'd be as resourceful as you, Blunt said. I mean, he's probably better at computer games anyway. Alex shook his head. I'm sorry, I'm just not interested. I don't want to get involved. Ah, that's a pity, Blunt said. His tone of voice hadn't changed, but there was a heavy, dead quality to the words. And there was something different, too, about him. Throughout the meal, he'd been polite. Not friendly, but human. In an instant, that had disappeared. Alex thought of a toilet chain being pulled. The human part of him been flushed away. Then, we'd better move on to discuss your future, he continued. Like it or not, Alex, the Royal and General is now your legal guardian. I thought you said the Royal and General didn't exist. Blunt ignored him. Ian Ryder has of course left the house, and all of his money to you. However, he left it in trust until you are 21. And we control that trust. So there will, I'm afraid, have to be some changes. The American girl who lives with you, Jack? Miss Starbright, her visa has expired. She'll be returned to America We propose to put the house on the market. Unfortunately, you have no relatives to look after you. So I'm afraid that also means you'll have to leave Brookland. You'll be sent to an institution. There's one I know just outside Birmingham, actually. The St. Elizabeth in Stourbridge. Not a very pleasant place. But I'm afraid there's no alternative. You're blackmailing me, Alex exclaimed. Not at all. But if I agree to do what you ask... Blunt glanced at Mrs. Jones. Help us, and we'll help you, she said. Alex considered, but not for very long. He had no choice, and he knew it. Not when these people controlled his money, his life, his entire future. You talked about training, he said. Mrs. Jones nodded. That's why we brought you here, Alex. This is a training centre. If you agree to what we want, we can start at once. Start at once. Alex spoke the 3 words without liking the sound of them. Blunt and Mrs. Jones were waiting for his answer. He sighed. Yeah, all right. Doesn't look like I've got much choice. He glanced at the slices of cold lamb on his plate. Dead meat. Suddenly, he knew how it felt.